Today I'm going to be showing you how you can turn your FPS from looking like this to looking more like this. To start, I'm going to show you the best possible in-game settings. First things first, you're going to up the field of view to 90, this just lets you see more. Then you're going to want to make sure that head bob is turned off, and the rest of these settings are personal preference. The only setting you really need to change now is max gibs and turn that all the way down to 0. The higher this setting is, the more debris you'll see when you break things. When it comes to the user interface settings, all of these are personal preference. When it comes to the audio settings, again these are personal preference, but I would recommend turning off the music. Now when it comes to the control settings, it's best just to use whatever you're comfortable with, but one setting I would recommend changing is hover loop. You're going to want to change this to a mouse button. It makes it a lot easier to move while looting. Now in the screen settings, I'd recommend using the native resolution of your monitor, as well as setting the mode to full screen. Then you want to make sure that VSync's turned off, and when it comes to FPS limit, just set it to the hertz of your monitor. Now for the graphics settings, when it comes to graphics quality, I'd recommend setting it to high, very high, or ultra, as when you go below that, items get a bit blurry. When it comes to render scale, you're going to want to put that to 1, as anything below this also makes the game blurry. When it comes to DLSS, you're going to want to turn that off. Now when it comes to shadow quality, I'd recommend setting this to 2 or higher, as on the lower settings, shadows seem to move, which can make it harder to spot enemies. For shadow cascades, turn it on to no cascades. For max shadow lights, you're going to want to set this to 0, as having it on 0 can help you see things in the dark. For water quality and reflections, you want to keep these on 0. You should set shader level to 600 and draw distance to 2500. For shadow distance, set that to the lowest. And you should do the same with anisotropic filtering and parallax mapping. I'd recommend turning global rendering off, but one setting I'd recommend turning on is grass displacement. With this turned on, dropped weapons become a lot easier to see. Feel free to turn grass shadows off, and you should turn NVIDIA reflex mode on. Now for mesh quality settings, if you want the most FPS, just set all of these to 0, but I would recommend turning up object quality and tree quality. Now for image effects, I'd recommend turning all these off, except sharpen. Keeping sharpen on just makes the game look nicer. Now for accessibility, these are all personal preference. But if you turn the tree marker colour to orange, it's a lot easier to see at night. Then for experimental, turn on automatic processor affinity and make sure that optimized loading is set to partial. This will let you load into servers much quicker. Then for gc.buffer, you're going to want to turn this up to the max. And that's all for the in-game settings. Finally, I'd recommend setting some launch options for Rust. What you want to do is go to Rust in your Steam library, click on Properties, and this is where you can set some launch options. I'll have my launch options in the description below. And that's all the tips I've got for this video, but if you want to learn 101 Rust tips and tricks, click this video.